Well, hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. So there's a lot going on. I thought I would come on board and have a conversation with people. I'm not so sure I want to be part of politics anymore because I'm not really coming from I used to be a staunch Democrat, and here are all the reasons why I am a member of the Democratic Party. I strongly support women's rights, and I've been consistent about that. I don't think that Donald Trump cares about women's rights. I don't think he cares about the women of Afghanistan. He abandoned them when he pulled out of Afghanistan. I know it was planned under Biden, but it was a huge mistake. I think with new drone technology, we would have had control over the Taliban. We could have watched those hills because the technology is now there. We never had to give up that area and abandon those women to horrific living conditions. I'm saddened as a feminist that the rights of women seem to be not a priority when it comes to going to war. When half or more than half of your population are slaves, I would think if there's any reason to go to war, that would be the reason. But to be politically correct, we women must sacrifice ourselves. We must sacrifice our bodies for the cause. We must place ourselves in burqas and in purdah. Purdah is house arrest. You must place yourself in house arrest. You must sacrifice your body and your rights for the cause because the cause is greater than your rights to be treated like a human being. That appears to be the argument from people that think that Iran didn't have to fall. 40,000 protesters gunned down by the Iranian government fighting for freedom. We are being told that we should abandon those protesters. We're being told that we should just let them be shot and murdered in the streets of Tehran, the women of Kabul, because it's not our problem. But that's not reality because this virus is spreading, right? So it seems far away from America, far away, far away, far away. So it's not our problem. It's the women of Kabul who are getting forced into house arrest. They're the ones that are dying in childbirth, not us. What do we care? We got our own fish to fry, right? We got our own problems here in America. So you sold your daughter to a pedophile. She was 5 years old, and she died on her wedding night being raped. It's not my problem. We got problems here at home. This is the Marjorie Taylor Greene argument, right? But that's not my argument because I'm a feminist. I'm a radical feminist. So I feel like for me, if I was going to go to war for any reason, it would be to liberate people who are enslaved, right? That's my own personal feelings about this. You may disagree with me. I've also heard comments from people, and this is the most common comment, that women are being oppressed here in America, and it's exactly the same. I don't think it is. You have the right to vote. If you don't like who's in office, you can get organized. You have a right to get on a bus without a man escorting you. You don't have to sit in the back of the bus, as many women do in many parts of the world, including the ultra Orthodox Jews of Israel. Women are pressured to sit in the back of the bus. So Jim Crow law has begun to break out there too. So I've got criticisms for everybody, including extremists within my own community as a Jewish person. I'm deeply offended by the horrors I see happening with women's rights in the state of Israel. So I've been very consistent. But I also want to say that I let people know for a good solid 4 or 5 years what was probably going to happen, right? So I did my part, right? And during the 3-4 years when I was advocating for the rebuild of Gaza and telling people that I don't think we're going to be able to pull this off. I don't think we're going to be able to pull this rebuild off and build peace zones until we dismantle Iranian leadership, because they keep sabotaging peace efforts. They keep so you go through the math, you do your best, you go through the math, you do go through your calculations, and the calculations always come to phase 5. Whether it's Joe Biden in office or Donald Trump or, God willing, Mark Kelly or Buttigieg or Harris, though I think I really want to see her as AG. My heart is with Harris in AG. Nobody wants to go to war. God knows I don't. But when I was working on this thesis, first and forefront for me, the forefront for me was I didn't want anyone to die, right? So what I was doing with my calculations, I was working on my doctoral degree, which was building peace zones in Israel. I'm an Israeli American, and I was trying to see if we could create kibbutz-like communities where Palestinians and Jews could live together on the border between Israel and Gaza, and that was known as the Oasis 1 project. And I advocated really, really heavily for this program. It didn't take anyone's space up. It would be done in no man's land. We would just have a couple different communities of peaceful people from Gaza, peaceful people from Israel. Let's come together and see what would happen if we create oasis zones of tolerance and peace on the border. We'll do trade. We'll even make it touristy. Maybe we can create a subway system joining the oasis zones to show that peace can be profitable. And that was all I was trying to do. And it was my doctoral dissertation. So I approached Haifa University with my doctoral dissertation. I approached the Israelis, the Israeli Defense Forces, Joe Biden, anybody who wanted to fund it, including like the millionaires and billionaires. Let's see if we can't try something different. Let's see if we can't start building peace zones on hostile borders so that the investment becomes peace rather than war. And what would happen theoretically in another 20, 30, 40, 50 years if we did that? And my argument is that people would run to the oasis because most people don't want to go to war. Most people are tolerant. Most people are good. Most people don't want to hurt anybody. And so what would happen would be that the oasis would swell, and those people who are trying to oppress women's rights, trying to kill other people, their economies would collapse. And the new economies that would be born from such a thesis would be based on cooperation, but also new transportation and trade that could happen from oasis zone to oasis zone. And this became the new paradigm. I did a letter writing campaign that has gone on for a good solid 3 years advocating for oasis zones. And I'm really pleased that these concepts were presented to President Zelensky, and now President Zelensky has adopted this concept as a proposal for the border between Ukraine and Russia. So that is who I am. Now, I also have another side of me because I've always been quirky and weird and a little bit, nutty in a good way. And that is that I like to read tarot cards. I worked my way through school doing tarot cards. I've learned remote viewing, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm a complicated person like most of us, and I have many aspects, as do you, as do all of us. But when I presented my data, now going on 3 years, it didn't thwart people from becoming members of this channel. I still have, close to 96,000 subscribers, 97, I don't know how much it is at this time. I'm very appreciative, by the way. And I think I did to the best of my ability. I tried to be as responsible as I could with the power and the responsibility that comes with having a channel like this, explaining to people why this is pure math. So I set about to put us in a series of scenarios. What would happen if the Iranian government did not collapse, if it did not fall? And the results were pretty horrifying. For example, we know that the Taliban is at war now with Pakistan, and probably if it continued to get economic support from Iran, building proxy armies, there's a very good chance that the Pakistani government would have collapsed. And it's a very good probability that with that collapse, the Taliban would have gotten access to the nuclear weapons that currently are in possession in Pakistan. And this is why Pakistan kept Obama up at night. So Obama was well aware of where this was headed, and he did everything in his power to not dismantle Iranian leadership, which is why we had the Iran deal. But the Iran deal failed. It did not bring us peace. Quite the opposite. It was gasoline on the fire, because on the one hand, we were criticizing, attacking, and obstructing the efforts of Khomeini to create a caliphate, but on the one hand, we were giving him the money and access to do it. So that money that was given to the Iranians, we know what happened to the money. It went to fund the Hezbollah fighters in the north, which has led to the slaughter of countless innocent people as they began to move in and take over Lebanon, Syria. Many people have been killed due to these extremist groups. Never mind the horrific conditions that women are being forced to live in Iran and in Afghanistan and Pakistan, which ranks 147 out of 147 for human rights alongside Afghanistan. I want you to think about that for just a moment. $147 countries, and you're looking for which country treats women the best. Well, the top of the list would be the Scandinavian countries: Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland. But the bottom of the list for women's rights is Pakistan and Afghanistan, and a little bit better than that would be the Arab states, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, the Congo would be slightly doing better. So I let people know where we were headed based on the math. And nobody got angry at me. People just accepted it, and I continued to get subscribers, and I don't know what people were thinking. Did they think that this wasn't going to happen? It isn't just that the Abraham Accords are getting backed by everybody. It's the fact that Iran was going to do everything in its power to keep that from happening. And so it became untenable. as more and more fighters began to attempt to enter Pakistan, attacking the Pakistani border, as more and more of Pakistani military began to aid Taliban fighters, including hiding Osama bin Laden, Obama wound up in this very difficult situation, which is why he entered Pakistani air base against the wishes of the Pakistani people and killed Osama bin Laden in a strike which some would call an illegal strike by entering foreign airspace to carry out that assassination. Again, I understand this is far away from you. This is far away from you. It's not your problem, right? It's somebody else's problem. Let them go work out their oppression issues. I'm sorry your daughter got sold in as a sex slave, but it's not my problem, right? So that would be Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think you can do both. I think you can do charity at home and also rescue, particularly if you care about the Epstein files. You should be horrified by what's happening in Afghanistan and Iran and what the Houthi are doing to to girls in Yemen, all over the Middle East. And so you should want reform. So the question has been asked, do I think that Trump did this to cover the Epstein files? I think it's very obvious from the data that this was planned many, many years ago. As you can see, the data that I gave the Israelis was in 2023. That was 3 years ago. And I'm just one person calculating the math. Is there any way that we can get out of this? Is there any way we can get out of this? There's got to be a way for us to get out of it. And the data would show not only can we not get out of it, but the longer we delay, the more people are going to die. There will be a nuclear accident. There will be a nuclear accident. Pakistan and India are the most unstable border, and if a nuclear accident is going to happen or nuclear war, it's most likely going to happen at that border. So we have to think about that. So I just want to say that people accepted this and nobody unsubscribed. They simply accepted that the math was the math. This is what the Iranian people wanted. Right? They wanted this. Yes, there are some religious extremists that are ranting and raving, but this is what the Iranian people want. This is what the Iranian women want. And it's terrible that they are storing weapons in schools, which is one of the things that the Iranians are doing, rocket launches from schools and universities, because they know that we're not going to bomb those areas. So that is where you hide the rockets. You hide them inside the school. You launch attacks from civilian areas. And as horrible as that is, it's not as bad as Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Anybody who's seen film footage of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, watching babies suffering after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We don't want that to happen to the people of Kashmir, of Kabul, of New Delhi. Right? We don't want that to happen. And so we have to always think in terms of how can we keep people alive? How can we calculate for the least amount of deaths? And that's what was done. The first 4 phases were adopted by Joe Biden publicly. We've talked about that. Do I think that Joe would have issued that strike? I think it would have been very painful for him. But I think after October 7th, the war with Hezbollah, what happened in Syria, the rape of Yazidi women in Iraq, being taken as sex slaves. I think, as I love Joe, very sensitive man, but sometimes these actions have to happen to prevent greater losses. Just as it was true in the Second World War. It was the least amount of deaths calculated, and the longer we waited, more people were going to die. That's what the data showed. Now, getting back to Trump, you guys asked me about Trump. Obviously, I didn't vote for him. I'm a registered Democrat, and this data was supplied to Joe Biden, who, as I said, publicly adopted the first 4 phases. I have no doubt he would have adopted the 5th phase because that's what the data showed. But it would have been a different experience because Biden would have been issuing the strike just as Obama did the strike and the taking out of Libya and was heavily attacked by the GOP. The very same people that are screaming and ranting and raving that they love this Iran, the taking out of Iran. Where were you when we had to take out Libya? Now, you attacked Barack Obama repeatedly, even though the data showed that we had to take out Libya. That's the problem with politics, because politics is all about making sure that the other guy looks bad and that your team wins. And instead, I would encourage us just to look at data. This, like I said, this was planned by the Department of War, Pentagon, whatever you want to call it, years ago. And when we say that it was planned years ago, we mean that it takes years to choreograph something like this. To have the intelligence, the amount of work it takes to have enough intelligence to know precisely where every meeting is taking place takes years. It takes years of embedded spies, choreographing, cooperation between multiple nations. And if we're going to strike, we got to strike now. They already had set up the 5 phases. They already knew where they were headed. They were headed to the Abraham Accords. They were headed to this new trade route. And there was nothing that was going to keep them from creating that new trade route. And anybody that was going to get in the way of that trade route was going to be removed. So the unit, if you're looking at an Oasis zone, right? If you're looking at an Oasis zone, how do we create them? How do we make sure we have more of them, right? I chose to use Abraham's tent for the model for my dissertation, and that's because Abraham, who was the founder of both Islam, Judaism, the Abrahamic faith, he was known as a tolerant person. He was not violent. He was a very gentle man. He was not engaged in war. And he had a famous tent that had 4 doors. And I thought it would be nice if we could recreate that as part of the Abraham Accords. And so what we have when we create an Oasis zone based on the spirit of Abraham, our father, is we have this beautiful tent that we're inviting everybody to join who is peaceful, just as Abraham did, with 4 doors. Although that is your transportation system that will connect you to other Oasis zones all over the world, until eventually what we have is a network of Oasis zones on every continent in the world where peaceful people come together. And this new trade route will become so successful, I believe, that in time we will see the end of wars. Because what people will want is to build Oasis zones and to be part of this network. That is the future. I believe in it. I have perfect faith. And I believe and have perfect faith that my dissertation, that my thesis reached the powers that be, because let's face fact, God works in mysterious ways, and this was one of those times that God made a miracle. One of the criticisms I've gotten from people is that some of the people investing in the rebuild are Republicans, or they're going to make a lot of money. Of course, they're going to make a lot of money. This is a trade deal, and they want to make money. And we're going to have to make, sometimes in life, you have to make deals with people you don't like. And we need to make sure in this process, as we build this new trade route, that we are doing everything in our power to return to the original formula, which is tolerance and dignity and the sanctity and dignity of all human life, right? So that's where we're going here with this, right? Do I think that this is going to help Trump avoid the Epstein file? Probably. But it doesn't matter. You know, I did everything in my power. I truly believe that, to prepare the people that watch this channel for what was coming, because I had the math, I had the data. I knew the data because it was my research. I spent 5 years on this. Like I said, nobody likes war. Honestly, from hearing the way Donald Trump is speaking, and I don't mean to be disrespectful at all, I don't think he has a clue what's happening. He doesn't understand my dissertation. He knows that the people in power, the people spending money, need to do this in order to build the new road, in order to build the new Abraham Accords. And he probably knows that that's a good thing. And he probably knows that his friends are going to get rich. And he probably knows that his friends want this. But aside from that, I don't think that Mr. Trump totally understands the math. I don't. I just don't. Because I have done the math. And I can assure you, after he's getting all the praise, that's fine. Let him have it. He's going to be gone soon enough, right? But this new road, this new transportation system, this new way of trade will live on for many generations to come, I'm hoping. And Trump will just be a footnote, right? All right, let's go ahead. We'll do some tarot and let's take a look and see what we get. Sound good? Thanks for being here. If you need a little love and healing, let us know. We can include you in the empath's prayer. Oh my goodness. It looks like I have a little, oh no, I don't. I thought I had a rash. I was like, oh no, it's spreading. Trump's rash. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively as a community, we say amen. And for those people who are requesting a healing today, we come together at this time and we pray. We pray that you and those you love receive a perfect healing in mind, body, and in spirit. And together again collectively, we say amen, amen, amen. May all souls be healed. Yeah, so I can tell you as an Israeli American, I'm very annoyed by what I'm seeing. I'm annoyed by this right-wing Republican hijacking of Israel, which started off as a democratic socialist experiment with communist and democratic socialists out of Russia and Eastern Europe that were fighting against religious extremism because they had been subjected to the oppression of the Tsar. And I think Mamdani was very inspired by them, which is why he's a huge fan of, and I think many Palestinians were huge fans of that, because this idea of moving away from religious extremism and building kibbutzes and communities based on democratic socialism. So these ideas were not supposed to be just for Jewish people, they were supposed to be for everybody, right? And which takes us back to Oasis 1. It takes us back to the original thesis, right? Can we create community? I believe we can, and I believe we will. All right. I'm going to just pull 4 cards about the future of Iran. What will be with the great Persian nation? Yes, the Persia. Cyrus the Great, right? The future of Iran. Yeah, I've stopped focusing on political parties because all they lie. They both lie in order to make the other guy look bad, and we're losing truth. We're losing truth in the process. And if we would just get rid of political parties and focus on the issues, it would bankrupt the super PACs and it would be healthier for our country. Because now it's all about making sure my political party wins, even if it means pathologically lying, distorting the facts, trying to stop a war which has to happen. This has to happen to get these psychopaths out of there. So I've stopped watching Midas Touch because this is my dissertation. I have these facts. I have these documents. I've spent 5 years on this. And listening to Midas Touch, well, that's not, I know for a fact that's not true because I've got the data. So it's understandable that people don't like Trump and they all want to get together and gang up on Trump. And I'm not a fan of Trump. But I really wish we would stick to the facts. I am not a fan of the Republican Party and this administration, which has been horrible for women, horrible for women's rights. They are not the people to liberate the women of the Taliban that are being rescued from the Taliban and from Iran. And I think that hypocrisy, rightly so, is something that we as feminists have a problem with. But just because we have a problem with that as feminists, and I am a radical feminist, and I want this to happen for the women of Afghanistan and Iran and Pakistan. I'm also intelligent enough to know that the Republicans don't give a damn about my rights. Right? So there will be peace. There will be peace. The day will come when Iran will have peace. And Iran is presented as the peaceful one who sits by the ocean. She sits by the ocean and she creates this beautiful, peaceful environment, right? So she's emotional, she's dreaming, she's peaceful, and she's also the Queen of Hearts. And so it's a beautiful way to think about the soul of the women of Iran, is that these are women with big, big hearts. They are lionesses, right? But they are also big, big hearted. However, the karma here remains the Three of Swords. And so we could see more heartbreak. But remember, as horrible as it is to die in war, Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a lot worse. And we don't want Hiroshima and Nagasaki for the people of Pakistan. We don't want the people of Karachi to die in a nuclear holocaust. We don't want that for the people of New Delhi or the people of Taliban or the people of Iran. But that's precisely what's going to happen. If they get access to nuclear weapons, the West will have a first strike. India will strike first. And a lot of people will die in that nuclear war. And it's questionable whether or not it will even be contained. The Taliban cannot get a hold of nuclear weapons. Iran cannot get a hold, because they will hold us hostage with those weapons. And that is why the math always comes back. We have to dismantle. We have to dismantle. Where we are at right now, a great celebration, the 10 of Cups, the happy family. We need to come together and unite and move away from party politics and just stick to the data. What does the data tell us? If it's any consolation to you folks, Joe Biden was the administration that got the 5 phases. You can see they were presented in December of 2023 under Biden's administration. And it was Biden that worked with the Israelis to develop the first 4 phases and probably would have adopted the 5th. The crossing, I'm seeing love. The Shah's coming back. You guys asked about that, whether the Shah was returning to Iran. Yes, he is. There he is. The family returns. The prodigal son, yes, returns. A great celebration. Iran celebrates the return of their king who was in exile. Well, good for them. That's their king. You know, some British feel very strongly about their monarchy. So what is above? There's confusion. Who will lead Iran? What they're sitting in, a deep healing is needed for the people of Iran. They're deeply wounded. We need some serious therapy here. We need some kebabs and some of that delicious Iranian tea and a nice head massage maybe, and lots of love and comfort. But Archangel Raphael over to bring healing, which is very positive. We're coming out of the 6 of Cups, an alliance. What I love about this 6 of Cups moving in is it would indicate that this love is happening. I know that the old Judea and Cyrus the Great, that was those were great allies. The Hebrew armies and Cyrus the Great. It's an ancient love affair, and you can see that 6 of Cups happening there. And going into a 3 of Wands, new horizons. So this peace will spread to new horizons. This is a new day, a new dawn as we seek. The ship is coming in, new peace, a new dawn. Where we are at right now, victory in the next 6 months. I think it's going to take less than 6 months. The people we are at war with, the Taliban, the religious extremists, they're confused. They really thought God was going to protect them. The hope and the fear, abandonment, that they lost support, even amongst IRGC fighters. People are abandoning Iran, and Iran is losing its support as more and more of its own citizens abandon their post and run towards freedom. And the final outcome for Iran, a new man will rule. The other thing is that it's all about economics. King of Pentacles would be a bureaucracy, and that makes sense because Iran and the Ottoman Empire were big on bureaucracy, taxation, and not controlling people's rights. You know, you were free to do whatever you like, but you had to pay your taxes. It was a very tolerant historically. People were in mini dresses, but you needed to pay your bills. So it kind of goes back to that they are the birthplace of bureaucracy, by the way. They say Iran is the birthplace of Okay, and then five camels, and then 2 sacks of barley grain, and then like all those tablet stuff is coming from this part of the world. Everything was written down. Same with the Ottomans, right? So you have this kind of creation of this new economy, strength of the economy. This is the war happening now, by the way, over the next 6 months. This is the clarification. And the confusion over, they're extremely angry and powerless. This presents to me as a feeling that they feel extremely angry and they feel extremely powerless. You know, this kind of powerlessness or confusion, the hopes and fears, there's the fall. They were not able to maintain it. They didn't really have an army that was set up to fight the United States. You can see the fall here. And they had invested in, they didn't want to fight. They wanted to pay somebody else to fight. So they were getting other people to go and die for them. So we'll give money to the Hezbollah, to Islamic Jihad, to the Houthi rebels, to Hamas. But we're going to sit here. You know, I'm a Jewish Buddhist. I'm a nice Jewish Buddhist. And there's this concept about anger in Buddhism that the angry person is not the person screaming and ranting and raving, which is often the person who's been gaslit and everything else. It's the person that's sitting there calmly smiling, that's provoking the whole thing. And you get this impression when you go into these cards that that's precisely that Iran is a nation of very dark spirits or energies that want people to kill each other. They want to kill and they want to be killed. They love death. Hamas talks about, they bury themselves so they can experience what it is to be in the grave. Can you imagine doing that to a child, brainwashing them it's a death cult. And like kamikazes of Japan, right? The same thing. It was a death cult. Dying for the motherland. And then they would, dive bomb, right? So the kamikazes. And so you have that kind of energy that's collapsing and this new administration of justice, and it's just a very justice and economic stability. It's interesting to see the future of Iran because it is kind of like this strict legal code and taxation. We cannot fall apart when it comes to our system of taxation and courts. Taxation and the courts are the main areas that they're going to be focusing on, which I assume means probably the new courts will be trying and holding accountable those people that participated in crimes against humanity, but also it most likely can see I always knew that was going to happen. Also more courts, but also the courts become a place for grievances of tolerance, so that anytime a woman is harassed, she can go to the courts and say, he touched me. Yeah, he did this. You did that. He beat me up because I wasn't wearing a hijab. Arrest him. So it becomes literally, it flips overnight, so that this new system comes in and says, from now on, women are free to do whatever they like. And if you obstruct her in any way as she goes to and from her home, you will be arrested and charged. And that appears to be this new energy that comes in, and pay your taxes. And I think the reason why it comes across as so rigid is for fear that if they are not rigid, the opposition will try to pull something. Well, maybe if I do go and try and touch this woman, or if I try to harass women that don't wear hijab, nothing's going to happen to me. This kind of cards indicate you're going to be arrested. This is a new Tehran, and we won't allow that. So that's very positive. One of the questions that I got asked, and I wanted to look at it before we closed today, had to do with the karma or the destiny of Trump. It's sad because energetically, a lot of people were speaking about the fact that he was showing signs of senility as early as 2017, right? So people were asking him to take cognitive tests as early as 2017. So It's very sad to see how badly he treated his body. Also, you have to take genetics into consideration that if he stays much longer, it's going to look like abusing a senior, because I don't know if he is entirely aware of what he's doing. And I don't think he totally understands this military strike or why it happened. He, in that sense, he was kind of used to. They just kind of used it. Well, we got to do phase 5 now. They're just ticking off. They're ticking things off, right, for the eventual rebuild. And okay, so Putin is being isolated now. They've cut off some of his Starlink. We're starting because they're trying to force him to agree to Oasis 1 in Donetsk. They want the same model, which is, by the way, they'd be doing him a huge favor if they did that, because eventually all the peace zones will be united through, they're going to build roads uniting them in a closed peace system, a system where you're only allowed to enter into that highway if you've gone through security. So if you happen to be born in Oasis, you'll never know war because you're born in a safe zone. And nobody's ever going to get access to you as a child that has ill intentions, because to try and get in, they're going to have to go through security checks. Well, you can't drive on that road. You haven't gone through. That's a closed road. That's part of the Oasis 1 system. We got to check your passport ID. And then once you get inside, you've got plainclothes policemen that are operating inside the zone, and they're going to make sure everybody's safe. Okay, everybody happy? We don't have any strange tourists here, right, with strange ideas, right, that have to maybe be removed from the zone. So for that reason, again, the economic shift is towards peace and tolerance, and anybody who's disruptive of that is not going to make it in the new economy. Sorry, people don't like the war. I don't like war either. It's just where the math took us. I don't want to die in a nuclear war. And the odds would be pretty high that was going to happen if the Taliban and Iran had been able to continue. I don't want to die in a nuclear war. I don't want your children and grandchildren to die in a nuclear war. I want us to dismantle the nuclear weapons. I think there are other ways we can work out our problems, which is why I built Oasis 1. Let's make peace attractive, but we need to do this first. We have to do this. That's because that's the math. Of course, I know other academics, intellectuals watch the channel because, like me, you like to have fun and play with the cards and do readings. But if you are working on a similar dissertation and you'd like to challenge my data, I'd like to see your work, because I'm always interested in hearing well thought out dissertations and ideas. You can email to whimsyanderson@gmail.com. I'd like to see your thesis. All right, let's take a look at Trump. His first card. He's too ill to continue. I don't feel good as Trump. I don't feel good. I don't have the energy I used to have. I'm tired all the time. That's why I keep falling asleep. I just don't feel good in my body. They're like picking things off of me, and my blood sugar's all over the place. I got something going on in my feet. I think that's probably neuropathy. Nobody's talking about that because nobody can see it. I just don't know how much longer I can go on. I want to go to heaven. I don't know if I will get to heaven. This is me as Trump and this transition. I'm transitioning out The death card comes to me. My opposition, I have lost MAGA. It didn't help me. It didn't help me because they didn't want foreign wars. I got pushed into this. They didn't want a foreign war. I didn't want to leave. I didn't leave Afghanistan. I don't want no foreign war. It's complicated. See, that is how it feels to me. But he's lost his constituents. No, they hate it. MAGA doesn't support this. Hopes and fears. Oh, that the truth will come out. So the other thing that's coming out about Trump is I'm worried I won't get to heaven. I'm worried I'm being abandoned by my constituents. And I'm afraid before I die, I don't want the truth to come out before I die. That is my big fear. And my daughter's not talking to me anymore. I don't know why. Maybe she's embarrassed. Ivanka's not talking to me right now. I'm finished. I can't go on. Yeah, something with my daughter. She feels deeply betrayed by him. She's not going to help him. She's not going to help him. He's asked for her help. They're going to put me in a facility. They're going to put me in a facility. They're going to tie me up. Yes, you are, just like they did to my dad. Don't let them. They're going to take me away. They're going to tie me up. They're going to put me away. That's how it ends for Trump. I don't know what happened with her, but it's a feeling of deeply being disturbed. I don't know. Maybe she had never seen the Epstein files. Maybe she didn't want to believe it. But now she's starting to believe it. But I don't want to be around him right now. I just feel this energy between the two of them. She's one of the people, Ivanka, that doesn't want him around her. It's a very strange feeling. Okay, so we have a lot of people leaving the Trump, right? You guys know about that, right? We've got people that are being fired, and now they're looking at possibly more firings. Is that correct? You guys had asked me about that. So ICE has gone through a lot. ICE has gone through a lot of changes, but now we're looking at probably the end of Pam Bondi as well, because I feel a little paranoid as Pam Bondi, quite frankly. Let's go in and take a look. Yeah, I don't know. Pam Bondi. I like Mark Kelly. People have asked me who I'm endorsing in the primary. I love Buttigieg. I love Mark Kelly. I love Harris, but I want her more for AG or Supreme Court. We need somebody in the DOJ that is going to deal with these people. And it needs to be somebody that we trust with DOJ, with Department of Justice training. And the only person I can think of that I trust to do that has that training, I can't think of anybody other than Harris that I would trust with that job when this guy is gone. That's me personally. You may want her as president, but I feel like it is a very important job, DOJ, and I don't think we've had anybody good in DOJ for some time. And I think that that's been catastrophic for the country and for our ethics and values. Never mind what it's done to our mental health and everything else. So I really hope that she gets taken in as DOJ. All right. So Pam Bondi's destiny. There's Pam Bondi. Star stands in the House of Opposition. She got abandoned. Where did everybody go? It's a kind of a feeling that is she the one that's pregnant, or is it somebody else? There's a new beginning happening for her. She's most likely facing charges. Mm-hmm. She's also going to be subpoenaed. They're going to throw her to the wolves when the Democrats take control of the House and Senate. Mm-hmm. The woman who's tied down. You know, what's interesting is that she's being pressured not to cooperate with an investigation, which leads me to think that there's more. She got herself in serious trouble. Look at this. Don't talk to them. Look at that. Yeah, I think that this is what the Republicans do. They throw their women to the wolves, and it looks like that's what they're going to do with the women of this administration. And Pam Bondi is most likely. Those cards, holy crow. Let me just do one more. She made a fool of herself. Like they were embarrassed by her performance. They're saying that the reason that they're firing her is poor performance. But I don't think that she's any worse than anybody else in his cabinet, to be honest with you guys. All right. Thank you, my loves. It has been a pleasure to hang with you guys. If you guys have done similar dissertations on peace work, I know some of you are peace activists. I'd love to, if any of you have done a rebuild for Gaza specifically or are involved in Middle Eastern peace initiatives, send me your ideas. We can share ideas. whimsyanderson@gmail.com, and maybe we can play a part in creating world peace. All right, if you're trying to get in for a reading with me, you can find all that information below this video. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.